The cold metal floor of Valara Prime Space Station felt like ice against Kira's cheek. She pressed herself deeper into the narrow maintenance shaft, trying to disappear into the shadows as heavy boots walked past her hiding spot. The security patrol was making their rounds, and if they found her here in the diplomatic sector, they would throw her back into the lower districts. Or worse, they might finally decide to send her to one of the detention centers for vagrant aliens. She waited until the footsteps faded before crawling out of the shaft. Her blue-green scales caught the dim light as she moved, making her look like a living piece of ocean trapped in the dark corridors of the station. At 12 years old, Kira had been living on the streets for 3 cycles now, ever since her parents died in a mining accident on one of the outer colonies. No one wanted to adopt a Valaxi orphan, especially not on a station where humans and Valaxi barely tolerated each other. Her stomach growled loudly. She had not eaten in 2 days. The food vendors in the lower districts knew her face now, and chased her away before she could even try to steal scraps from their garbage. That was why she had ventured up here to the cleaner levels where diplomats and officials worked. Rich people threw away better food. Kira moved quietly through the corridor, her bare feet making no sound on the polished floor. Everything up here was so clean and bright, so different from the rusty pipes and flickering lights of her usual territory. She felt out of place, like a piece of trash that had floated up from the depths. She was checking behind a row of decorative plants near a fancy restaurant when she saw it, a brown leather wallet lying on the floor near a bench. Kira looked around quickly, her large amber eyes scanning for any sign of the owner. The corridor was empty. Someone must have dropped it and walked away without noticing. Her hands shook as she picked it up. The leather was soft and warm, expensive. She had never owned anything this nice. Just holding it made her feel different, like she was someone important instead of a street rat that everyone ignored. Kira opened the wallet carefully. Inside, she found credit chips that made her eyes go wide. More money than she had seen in her entire life. Enough to buy food for months. Enough to rent a real room with a real bed. Enough to maybe, just maybe, buy passage on a transport ship to somewhere better than this station. But there was more than just money. She found identification cards with official seals, the kind that important people carried, and photos. Several photos of humans smiling at the camera. One photo caught her attention and held it. A human man with kind eyes stood next to a young girl, maybe around Kira's age. They were in a park somewhere with real grass and real trees, not the fake plants that grew in the station's hydroponics bay. The girl was laughing, holding onto the man's hand like she would never let go. Kira's fingers brushed against the photo and suddenly her empathic sense kicked in. All Valaxi had this ability to some degree, but Kira's was stronger than most. Through the residual emotions left on objects people touched, she could feel what they had felt. It was not a pleasant gift when you lived on the streets. Every piece of garbage she touched to find food carried the disgust of whoever had thrown it away. But this was different. Through the wallet, she felt worry, deep gnawing worry that sat in her chest like a stone, and beneath that, a sadness so profound it made her want to cry. Someone had lost something precious. Someone was in trouble. She looked at the identification card more carefully. Daniel Hayes, Senior Diplomatic Attaché, Earth Alliance. The face in the photo matched the man standing with the little girl. But this photo was more formal, more recent. The man looked older and tired, with lines around his eyes that had not been there in the park picture. There were also data chips in the wallet, small and silver, with official seals stamped on them. Kira did not know what was on them, but she knew what they were worth. Data chips with government seals could fetch a fortune on the black market. The criminals who ran the lower districts would pay enough for these that she could live comfortably for years. She sat down on the bench, still holding the wallet, trying to think. Her stomach growled again, reminding her that she had not eaten. Winter cycle was coming, and the lower districts got cold. She needed warm clothes. She needed medicine for the cough that had been getting worse. She needed so many things, and here in her hands was the answer to all her problems. But she could still feel the emotions in the wallet, could still feel the worry. And now, as she held it longer, she felt something else. Fear. Recent fear. Sharp and sudden, like the owner had realized the wallet was gone and panicked. Kira had learned to ignore feelings. You had to when you lived like she did. Caring about other people's emotions did not put food in your belly or keep you warm at night. But something about this wallet, about the man in the photo and his worry and his sadness, would not let her just walk away. She stood up and walked to a public information terminal nearby. The screen flickered to life when she touched it. She searched for news, anything about diplomats or the Earth Alliance. It did not take long to find what she was looking for. The news headline made her scales prickle with cold. Peace negotiations between humanity and the Valaxi Collective were happening right here on Valara Prime. Starting tomorrow, Daniel Hayes was listed as one of the lead human negotiators. The article talked about how important these negotiations were, how they could end decades of tension and conflict, how the future of both species might depend on their success. And this man had lost his wallet. With his identification, with official data chips, right before the most important negotiations in a generation, Kira closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She knew what she should do. The right thing was obvious, but the right thing was also the hard thing. Maybe the hardest thing she had ever done. She could feel the weight of the credit chips in the wallet, feel the promise of food and warmth and safety. All she had to do was walk away. No one knew she had found it. No one would blame her. She opened her eyes and looked at the photo again. The little girl laughing in the park. Where was she now? Why did Daniel Hayes carry such old photos along with recent ones? The sadness in the wallet grew stronger as she focused on it, and suddenly Kira understood. The girl was gone. Dead, probably. And this man carried her memory everywhere he went, along with his important work and his official duties. A man who loved someone that much deserved to have his wallet back. But before she could decide what to do, Kira heard voices echoing down the corridor. She quickly stuffed the wallet under her ragged shirt and pressed herself against the wall. Two men in maintenance uniforms walked past, talking in low voices. They looked like station workers, but something about them made Kira's instincts scream danger. She had learned to trust those instincts. She followed them quietly, staying in the shadows. The empathic sense that let her read emotions also made her naturally quiet, able to feel when people were about to turn around or look her way. The men stopped near a service elevator, still talking. Now she could hear their words clearly. Her sensitive Valaxi hearing picked up every syllable. The first man said in a rough voice that the diplomat's wallet had been taken care of. The second man laughed and said something about how Hayes would be scrambling now, trying to find his precious data chips. They talked about payment from the Separation Alliance, about how the peace talks needed to fail, about how the wallet would turn up eventually with altered data that would make Hayes look like a traitor. Kira felt her blood run cold. The wallet had not been lost. It had been stolen. And these men, or someone they worked for, planned to use it to destroy the peace negotiations. The men entered the elevator and disappeared. Kira stood frozen, clutching the wallet under her shirt. She now held something much more dangerous than she had realized. This was not just about returning a lost item to a worried man. This was about stopping a conspiracy that could affect millions of people across two civilizations. And she was just a homeless 12-year-old girl that nobody cared about. But she had the wallet. She had the proof. And she had a choice to make. Kira spent the night huddled in her usual sleeping spot, a gap between two large air recycling units in the lower districts. The constant hum of the machines normally helped her sleep, but tonight her mind would not rest. The wallet felt heavy against her chest where she had hidden it inside her shirt. Every few hours she would pull it out and look at it again by the dim light that leaked through the grating above her head. The credit chips gleamed. The photos stared back at her. The data chips sat there like tiny bombs that could either save or destroy the peace negotiations. She had 3 choices, and all of them terrified her. She could keep the money and sell the data chips. She would be rich, or at least comfortable, for the first time in 3 years. But the peace talks would fail and maybe a war would start. The thought made her sick. She had already lost her parents to violence. She did not want to be responsible for more death. She could throw the wallet away and pretend she never found it. That way she would not profit from it, but she also would not take the risk of trying to return it. The conspirators would eventually find it wherever she left it, and their plan would go forward. That choice felt like cowardice, and Kira had lived through too much to be a coward now. Or she could return the wallet to Daniel Hayes and tell him about the conspiracy. That was the right choice. She knew it was. But it was also the most dangerous. The diplomatic sector had heavy security. They would see a dirty street kid with a diplomat's wallet and think she stole it. They might arrest her. They might not believe her story about overhearing the conspirators. And even if they did believe her, what if the conspirators found out she had interfered with their plan? Dawn came slowly to Valara Prime, which did not really have days and nights, just shifts when the lights were brighter or dimmer. Kira crawled out of her hiding spot and stretched her stiff muscles. She needed to decide. The news terminal said the peace negotiations would begin this afternoon. If she was going to act, it had to be now. She walked to a public water fountain and drank until her belly was full of water, trying to trick her stomach into thinking she had eaten. Then she found a reflective panel on a shop window and looked at herself. She looked terrible. Her scales, which should have been bright and glossy, were dull from malnutrition. Her clothes were little more than rags. She had dirt under her claws and tangles in the crest of flexible spines that ran from her head down her back. If she showed up at the diplomatic sector looking like this, security would chase her away before she got within 50 feet of the entrance. She needed to at least try to make herself presentable. Kira spent the next hour finding a place where she could wash. The public facilities in the lower districts were filthy and broken, but she found one shower that still worked. The water was ice cold, but she scrubbed herself as clean as she could. She even managed to find a piece of soap someone had dropped. It smelled like chemicals, but it was better than nothing. Her clothes were harder to deal with. She could not wash them without having nothing to wear while they dried. So she did the best she could, wiping away the worst of the dirt and trying to smooth out the wrinkles. It did not help much. She still looked like exactly what she was, a homeless child. But she was a homeless child with something important to do. The trip back up to the diplomatic sector took longer than before because she had to avoid the patrols she knew would be looking for vagrant aliens. Security always got tighter during important events. Twice she had to hide in maintenance shafts. Once she had to climb through an air duct that was so narrow her shoulders scraped both sides. When she finally reached the diplomatic sector, her scales were already getting dirty again and she had torn a new hole in her shirt. So much for looking presentable. The entrance to the diplomatic offices was guarded by 2 security officers in dark uniforms. They looked bored, standing there checking identification cards and waving people through. Kira took a deep breath and walked toward them, trying to look confident even though her legs felt like they might collapse. The guards noticed her when she was still 20 feet away. Their bored expressions changed to alert suspicion. One of them held up a hand. The gesture was clear. "Stop right there," Kira stopped. She carefully pulled the wallet out from under her shirt, holding it up where they could see it. Both guards immediately tensed, their hands moving to the weapons at their belts. The first guard said something into a communication device on his wrist. Then he walked toward Kira slowly, one hand still on his weapon. His voice was hard and suspicious when he spoke. "Where did you get that?" he asked. Kira's mouth went dry. She had prepared what to say, had practiced it in her head a dozen times, but now the words would not come out right. "I found it," she managed to say. Her voice sounded small and scared. "It belongs to Daniel Hayes. I need to return it to him." The guard held out his hand. "Give it to me. I will make sure he gets it." "No," Kira said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. "I need to give it to him directly. There are things he needs to know." "Things I heard. About people who want the peace talks to fail." The guard's eyes narrowed. He looked at his partner, then back at Kira. "You expect me to believe that a street rat found a diplomat's wallet and instead of selling it, decided to return it? And now you have a story about conspiracies? Do you think I'm stupid?" "Please," Kira said. Her empathic sense could feel the guard's suspicion like a wall between them. She had to make him understand. "Just let me talk to him. Let me explain. Check the wallet. Everything is still there. If I wanted to steal it, why would I bring it back?" The guard grabbed the wallet from her hand. He opened it and checked the contents, his expression growing more suspicious with each item he found. The credit chips, the identification cards, the data chips with official seals. Everything was there. That just made it worse. What thief would return everything? The second guard had been speaking into his communication device. Now he walked over and grabbed Kira's arm, not gently. "Commander Grant is on her way," he said. "She will want to question this one personally. Stealing from a diplomat during peace negotiations is a serious crime." "I did not steal it," Kira protested, but the guard just tightened his grip. She felt panic rising in her chest. This was going wrong. They thought she was a thief. They were not listening to her. And now some commander was coming. Someone important. Someone who would definitely not believe the word of a homeless alien child. Maybe this had been a mistake. Maybe she should have just thrown the wallet away and let the universe sort itself out. She had tried to do the right thing, and now she was going to end up in a detention center. Or worse. The guards pulled her off to the side, making her sit on a bench while they waited. Other people passing through the entrance stared at her. Some looked disgusted. Some looked curious. None looked sympathetic. To them, she was just another criminal alien getting what she deserved. After what felt like forever but was probably only 10 minutes, a woman in a crisp security uniform came striding down the corridor. She was human, tall and lean, with gray hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. The guards immediately straightened to attention. Commander Grant walked up to Kira and studied her for a long moment. Then she looked at the wallet the guard held. "Explain," she said. Her voice was not cruel, but it was not kind either. It was the voice of someone who dealt with problems efficiently and did not have time for games. Kira stood up, trying to look brave even though she wanted to run. She told her story as clearly as she could, finding the wallet, checking the news terminals, overhearing the two men talking about the Separation Alliance and their plan to alter the data chips. Everything. Commander Grant listened without interrupting. When Kira finished, the commander took the wallet and examined it herself. She pulled out one of the data chips and held it up to the light, as if she could see what was on it just by looking. "These chips contain classified treaty information," Commander Grant said. "If what you say is true, and someone wanted to alter them, they would need access to advanced encryption technology. That rules out common criminals." But she looked at Kira with those sharp eyes. "It does not rule out you being part of the plan. Perhaps you were supposed to deliver this wallet to someone and you got cold feet. Or perhaps this is a more complicated scheme than it appears." Kira felt her hope crumbling. The commander did not believe her either. No one was going to believe her. She was just a street kid, and street kids were liars and thieves. That was what everyone thought. But then a new voice cut through the tension. A voice that sounded tired and worried and desperately hopeful all at once. "Is that my wallet?" Kira turned and saw a human man hurrying toward them. He looked exactly like the photo in the wallet, but older. More tired. The lines around his eyes were deeper. His hair had more gray in it. But his eyes, those kind eyes from the photograph, they were the same. This was Daniel Hayes. Daniel Hayes moved past Commander Grant and reached for the wallet like a drowning man reaching for a lifeline. His hands shook as he took it from the commander and opened it, checking the contents with desperate speed. His relief was so powerful that Kira could feel it through her empathic sense even without touching the wallet. It washed over her like warm water. "Everything is here," Daniel said. His voice cracked slightly. "Thank God everything is here. The data chips, the identification, even the credits." He looked up at Commander Grant. "Where did you find it?" Commander Grant nodded toward Kira. "She found it. Or so she claims. We were just discussing whether her story is believable." Daniel Hayes really looked at Kira for the first time. His eyes moved over her ragged clothes, her dirty scales, her thin frame that showed she did not eat enough. But he did not look at her with disgust or suspicion like the others had. His expression was complicated. There was surprise there and curiosity and something else, something that looked almost like recognition, though they had never met before. "You found this?" he asked her gently. "Where?" "Near the restaurant on the upper level," Kira said. "Yesterday evening." "By a bench." Her voice was still small, but something about the way Daniel looked at her made her feel less afraid. "I saw the news about the peace negotiations. I knew it was important. I wanted to return it." Daniel's eyes went to the wallet in his hands, then back to Kira. "Thank you," he said simply. Those two words carried more weight than any long speech could have. He meant them. Kira could feel that he truly meant them. Commander Grant crossed her arms. "She also claims to have information about a conspiracy to sabotage the negotiations. She says she overheard two men talking about altering the data chips and framing you as a traitor." The commander's tone suggested she thought this part of the story was fantasy. Daniel's face went pale. "What did these men look like?" he asked Kira urgently. "Where did you see them?" "What exactly did they say?" Kira described the two men as best she could. Their maintenance uniforms, their rough voices, the way one had laughed when talking about Hayes scrambling to find his wallet. She told them about the Separation Alliance, about the plan to alter data, and make it look like Hayes was trying to sabotage the negotiations. She remembered every word because fear had burned them into her memory. As she talked, Commander Grant's expression changed from skepticism to concern. Daniel looked grim. When Kira finished, there was a long silence. "The Separation Alliance is a known extremist group," Commander Grant said slowly. "They have cells on both human and Valaxi worlds. They have been quiet lately, but intelligence suggested they might try something to disrupt the peace process. If they managed to get agents onto the station pretending to be maintenance workers," her voice trailed off. She pulled out a communication device. "I need to run a security sweep immediately. Check all maintenance personnel credentials. Look for any anomalies in the staff records." Daniel was still looking at Kira. "Why?" he asked her. "Why did you return it? You could have sold the credit chips. You could have sold the data chips for even more. You look like you need the money. No one would have blamed you, so why?" Kira did not know how to explain. She touched the wallet again, just briefly, and felt the familiar sadness there. Without thinking, she spoke what she sensed. "I felt your emotions in the wallet. I felt your worry and your sadness." She hesitated, then added quietly, "I saw the photo. The one with the girl in the park. Your daughter." Daniel's breath caught. His hand went to the wallet, protective and tender. "Sophie," he said. Her name was Sophie. 2 years ago he stopped. He could not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Kira already understood. "I am sorry," Kira said. She meant it. The sadness in the wallet made sense now. A father who had lost his daughter. A man who carried her photo everywhere even though it hurt to look at it. "I could not keep something that mattered so much to you. Not even when I really needed the money. It would not have been right." Daniel Hayes stared at her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, his eyes filled with tears. He blinked them back quickly, but not before Kira saw them. "She is exactly Sophie's age," he said to Commander Grant, though he was still looking at Kira. "Exactly. 12 years old. Same height. Same way of standing like she is ready to run at any moment." Commander Grant's expression softened slightly, but she remained professional. "Even if her information proves accurate, we still need to verify her story. Where do you live, child? Do you have parents or guardians who can vouch for you?" Kira looked at the floor. "I live in the lower districts, between the air recycling units on level 7. My parents died 3 cycles ago. There is no one to vouch for me. I am just a street kid." The commander frowned. "We cannot just let you go. You have been exposed to classified information, and if there really is a conspiracy, you might be in danger. The conspirators may realize their plan failed when the wallet was returned. They will want to know who interfered." Fear shot through Kira. She had not thought of that. She had been so focused on doing the right thing that she had not considered the consequences. If the men in the maintenance uniforms found out she had heard them and returned the wallet, they would come after her. And she had no one to protect her. Nowhere safe to hide. "She stays with me," Daniel said suddenly. Both Kira and Commander Grant turned to look at him in surprise. He continued, his voice firm. "Until this is resolved, she stays in my quarters under diplomatic protection. If her information is correct, and I believe it is, then she just saved the peace negotiations. That makes her a person of interest to both governments. She deserves protection, not detention." Commander Grant looked like she wanted to argue, but Daniel's logic was sound. "You will take full responsibility for her?" she asked. "I will," Daniel said. He looked at Kira. "If you are willing. You do not have to come with me, but I promise you will be safe and fed and you will have a comfortable place to sleep while we figure this out." Kira's mind reeled. An hour ago, she had been a homeless orphan about to be arrested. Now a human diplomat was offering her protection. It felt like a dream. The kind of dream she used to have before she learned that dreams just made waking up hurt more. But her empathic sense told her Daniel meant what he said. There was no deception in him. No hidden agenda. Just genuine concern for a child who had done the right thing at great risk to herself. "Okay," Kira whispered. "Thank you." Commander Grant nodded sharply. "Fine, but she does not leave the diplomatic sector without an escort. And Hayes, I will need a full debriefing from you both. If there really are Separation Alliance operatives on my station, I need to know everything." The security sweep she had ordered was already underway. Her communication device was buzzing with reports from her team. Daniel put a gentle hand on Kira's shoulder. "Come on," he said. Let us get you somewhere safe, and then, if you are willing, you can tell us everything you remember. Every detail might be important." As they walked away from the entrance, Kira looked back once. The guards who had grabbed her were still standing at their post, now looking confused. Commander Grant was barking orders into her device. Everything had happened so fast. Kira's head was spinning. Daniel's quarters in the diplomatic sector were nicer than anything Kira had ever seen. There was a real bed with clean sheets, a window that looked out at the stars, a bathroom with hot water, and a small kitchen area where Daniel immediately went to make her something to eat. "Sit down," he told her. "You look exhausted. When did you last eat?" 2 days ago, Kira admitted. Maybe 3. She had lost track. Daniel's face tightened with anger, but not at her. At the universe that had let a child go hungry. He heated up some soup and brought it to her with bread. Real bread, soft and fresh. Not the hard ration bars she usually stole. "Eat slowly," he warned. "Your stomach is not used to food. If you eat too fast, you will get sick." Kira tried to follow his advice, but it was hard. The soup was warm and rich and the best thing she had ever tasted. She had to force herself to take small bites, to chew carefully when what she really wanted to do was gulp it all down. While she ate, Daniel sat across from her. He did not push her to talk. He just let her eat in peace. But Kira could feel his emotions now that they were alone. The sadness was still there, deep and permanent. But there was something else too. Something that felt like hope. Fragile and uncertain, but real. And for the first time in 3 years, Kira felt something she had almost forgotten. She felt safe. Commander Grant arrived at Daniel's quarters 3 hours later with news. Her face was serious, but there was satisfaction in her eyes. The kind of satisfaction that came from finding exactly what you were looking for, even when you hoped you were wrong. "We found them," she said without preamble. 2 men matching the descriptions your young friend provided. They were working in the maintenance department under false credentials. Very good false credentials, I might add. They would have passed most standard checks. But when we looked deeper, we found the forgeries. Kira sat up straight from where she had been dozing on the couch. Daniel leaned forward in his chair. "Are they talking?" he asked. "One of them is," Commander Grant said. "The other is staying silent, but we do not need him. The one who is talking gave us everything, the entire operation." She pulled out a data pad and scrolled through it. "The Separation Alliance has cells in 12 locations across human and Galaxy space. They have been planning this for months. The goal was to steal your wallet, alter the data chips to include inflammatory language that would make it look like you were trying to insert poison pills into the treaty, then return the wallet anonymously to make it seem like you had just misplaced it." Daniel's face went white. If that had worked, if I had presented those altered documents at the negotiation table, the Galaxy delegation would have walked out. They would have thought humanity was negotiating in bad faith. The treaty would have collapsed. Decades of diplomatic work would have been destroyed. Worse than that, Commander Grant said grimly. "Our analysis suggests the altered language was designed to be more than just offensive. It included coded phrases that certain radical elements on both sides would have recognized as calls to action. We believe the Separation Alliance was trying to trigger a military incident. They wanted war." The room fell silent. Kira felt cold. She had known the conspirators were bad, but she had not understood the full scope of what they were trying to do. They had wanted to start a war, and she had accidentally stopped them by finding a wallet. Commander Grant looked at Kira. "You saved lives, child. Possibly millions of lives, both human and Galaxy. Do you understand that? What you did? Choosing to return that wallet, choosing to speak up about what you heard, it mattered. It mattered more than you can possibly imagine." Kira did not know what to say. She had just been trying to do the right thing. She had not been thinking about millions of lives. She had been thinking about a sad man who had lost his daughter and his important wallet. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. "The negotiations are supposed to start tomorrow. Do we tell the Galaxy delegation about this?" "We have to," Commander Grant said. "Full transparency is the only way to build trust. Besides, the Separation Alliance has operatives in Galaxy space too. The Galaxy government needs to know so they can root out their own traitors." She paused. "There is something else. The Galaxy delegation has already heard rumors about what happened. Word spreads fast on a station like this. They are asking to meet the child who found the wallet." Kira felt panic rise in her chest. Meet the Galaxy delegation? But they were important people. Leaders, diplomats. What would they want with someone like her? She was nobody. A street orphan. What if they were angry that a homeless child had been involved in such important matters? Daniel must have sensed her fear. He moved to sit beside her on the couch. "It is okay," he said gently. "You do not have to do anything you do not want to do, but I think they want to thank you. Your people value honor very highly. What you did, returning the wallet when you could have profited from it, that means something to them." Your people, Kira thought. It had been so long since she had been around other Valaxi that she had almost forgotten she belonged to a larger community. The lower districts had no Valaxi families. Just a handful of lonely individuals like her, struggling to survive in a place that did not want them. "I will meet them," she said quietly. "If they want to meet me, I will do it." Commander Grant nodded approvingly. "Tomorrow morning, then. The meeting is at 900 hours in the main conference room. Both delegations will be there." "And Hayes?" She looked at Daniel seriously. "They want her there for the opening ceremony of the negotiations. They are calling her a symbol of hope. A bridge between our species." After Commander Grant left, Daniel helped Kira get ready for bed. The real bed, with its soft mattress and clean sheets, felt strange and wonderful. She was almost afraid to lie down on it, worried she would make it dirty or break it somehow. Daniel showed her how the bathroom worked, with its hot water and soap and towels that were soft instead of scratchy. He gave her clean clothes to sleep in. They were too big for her, but they were clean and warm and smelled nice. Not like the streets. Not like fear and hunger and desperation. Before he left her to sleep, Daniel paused at the door. "Kira," he said. She looked at him. "Thank you. I know everyone keeps saying that, but I need to say it too. You gave me back something I thought I had lost forever. Not just the wallet. Something else. Something I cannot quite name yet. But thank you." Kira felt his emotions through the air between them. The sadness was still there, but it was softer now. Less sharp. And the hope she had sensed earlier was stronger. He was healing, she realized. Slowly, but he was healing, and somehow she was part of that. "You are welcome," she said. Then, because she had been alone for so long and had forgotten what it felt like to have someone who cared, she added, "Thank you, too, for letting me stay here, for the food and the bed and for believing me." Daniel smiled. It was a sad smile, but a real one. "Get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow is going to be a big day." After he left, Kira lay in the bed and stared at the ceiling. She could see stars through the window. Real stars, not the artificial lights of the lower districts. She tried to process everything that had happened. Just yesterday she had been sleeping between air recycling units, hungry and cold and alone. Now she was in diplomatic quarters, about to meet with the leaders of two civilizations. It did not feel real. It felt like a story someone might tell. Not like something that could actually happen. Girls like her did not get rescued. They did not get to sleep in clean beds or eat hot food or meet important people. They just survived day by day, until eventually they did not survive anymore. But this was real. The soft mattress beneath her was real. The full belly was real. The safety was real. And tomorrow, whatever tomorrow brought, she would face it. She had survived 3 years on the streets. She could survive one meeting with diplomats. Kira closed her eyes and, for the first time in longer than she could remember, fell asleep without being afraid. The next morning came too quickly. Daniel woke her gently and gave her breakfast. Real breakfast with eggs and fruit and bread with butter. She ate slowly, remembering his warning about her stomach, but it was hard not to just devour everything in sight. Then came the difficult part. What to wear? The clothes Daniel had lent her were comfortable, but they were his clothes, made for a human adult. They hung on her small frame like bags. She still had her street clothes, but they were ragged and dirty even after her attempts to clean them. Daniel made some calls. An hour later, a Valaxi woman arrived with clothes that would actually fit Kira. They were simple but clean and new. A tunic and pants in shades of blue and green that complemented her scales. The woman, who introduced herself as Ambassador Talia from the Valaxi delegation, helped Kira get dressed. "You are very brave, little one," Ambassador Talia said in the Valaxi language. Kira had almost forgotten how to speak it. She had been using Standard Common for so long. The ambassador's scales were a deep purple, beautiful and well-maintained. She smelled like home, like family, like everything Kira had lost. "It is an honor to meet you. I am not brave," Kira whispered. "I was just trying to do the right thing." Ambassador Talia smiled. That is what bravery is, child. Doing the right thing even when it is hard. Even when you are afraid. Especially then. At 900 hours, they walked to the conference room. Daniel on one side of Kira, Ambassador Talia on the other. Both of them seemed to understand that she needed their presence, their support, to face what was coming. The conference room doors opened. Inside, both delegations were waiting. Humans and Valaxi, sitting on opposite sides of a long table. All of them turned to look as Kira entered, and then, to her shock, they all stood up. Every single one of them. The leaders and diplomats of two civilizations, standing in respect for a homeless 12-year-old girl who had found a wallet and chosen to return it. Kira stood frozen in the doorway of the conference room as every diplomat rose to their feet. The gesture was so unexpected, so overwhelming that she forgot how to breathe. These were the most powerful people from two civilizations, and they were standing for her. For a street orphan, for a nobody, the head of the Valaxi delegation stepped forward. He was tall for a Valaxi, with silver scales that marked him as an elder. His amber eyes were kind as he looked down at Kira. "Young one," he said in their native language, "you have shown us what it truly means to have honor. You chose integrity over survival. That is the highest virtue of our people, and you have honored us all." Then the leader of the human delegation spoke. She was an older woman with white hair and sharp eyes. "Kira," she said, using common so everyone could understand, "what you did goes beyond returning a lost wallet. You exposed a conspiracy that would have cost countless lives. You built a bridge between our species through your actions. That makes you a hero in both our books." Kira wanted to say she was not a hero. Heroes were strong and brave and special. She was just a scared kid who had gotten lucky. But the words would not come. All she could do was nod and try not to cry in front of all these important people. Daniel squeezed her shoulder gently, a gesture of support and pride. Ambassador Talia did the same from the other side. Between them, Kira found her voice. "I just did what I thought was right," she managed to say. "Anyone would have done the same." "But we both know that is not true," the Valaxi elder said gently. "Many would have kept the money. Many would have sold the data chips. Many would have walked away. You did not. That is what makes your choice meaningful." He gestured to an empty chair that had been placed at the head of the table, between the two delegations. "We would be honored if you would sit with us as we begin these negotiations. Your presence will remind us all of what we are trying to build, a future where children like you do not have to live on the streets, where honor is valued more than profit, where our two peoples can work together instead of against each other." The negotiations lasted for 3 days. Kira did not understand all of it. The language was complicated and the issues were complex. But she sat in that chair at the head of the table, and every time the discussions got heated or someone seemed ready to walk away, they would look at her. A child who had chosen to do the right thing, and somehow that was enough to bring them back to the table. On the 3rd day, they reached an agreement, a comprehensive peace treaty that would establish trade, cultural exchange, and joint security operations. Both sides would work together to eliminate extremist groups like the Separation Alliance. Both sides would commit to protecting the vulnerable, especially children, on all their worlds and stations. When the treaty was signed, they asked Kira to stand between the two leaders as the cameras recorded the moment. Her image would be broadcast across human and Valaxi space, the orphan girl who had saved the peace. After the ceremony, the Valaxi delegation approached Daniel. "We would like to propose something," the elder said. "We know you have been caring for young Kira. We can see the bond forming between you. With your permission, and with hers, we would like to make this arrangement official. The Valaxi Collective and the Earth Alliance working together could establish dual citizenship for her. She would be the first child to belong to both our peoples, a living symbol of the peace we have just created." Daniel looked at Kira. The question in his eyes was clear. Did she want this? Did she want to stay with him? To be part of his family? Kira thought about the last 3 years. The cold nights. The hunger. The loneliness, the fear. She thought about the last 3 days. The warm bed. The full belly. The safety. But most of all, she thought about Daniel. About the way he looked at her like she mattered. Like she was not just another street kid to be ignored or chased away. Like she was someone worth caring about. "Yes," she whispered. "I want that." Daniel's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were happy tears. "Then let us make it official," he said. Kira, would you like to be my daughter? I cannot replace your parents. I would never try. But I can offer you a family, a home, a future, if you will have me as your father. Kira nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Daniel pulled her into a hug. It was the first hug she had received in 3 years. She pressed her face against his shoulder and let herself cry. For her parents who were gone, for the years she had spent alone, for the fear and hunger and cold, but also for this, for being found, for being wanted, for being safe at last. The paperwork took weeks to process. Both governments had to approve the adoption. Both had to establish the legal framework for dual citizenship. But eventually it was done. Kira Hayes, citizen of both Earth and the Valaxi Collective, the first of her kind. They moved to Earth after Daniel's assignment on Valara Prime ended. Kira had never been on a planet before. The open sky terrified her at first. It was so big, so endless. She was used to the enclosed spaces of the station, where everything had walls and ceilings. But slowly she adapted. She learned to love the feel of real wind on her scales, the smell of real grass, the sound of real birds. Daniel enrolled her in school. That was hard. The other children stared at her. Some were curious. Some were mean. She was the only Valaxi in her class, maybe in the whole city, but she had survived 3 years on the streets. She could survive school. And gradually, some of the curious ones became friends. They learned that her scales were not slimy like they had thought, that her large eyes saw colors they could not see, that she could hear things they could not hear, that she was different, but that different was not bad. Kira excelled in her studies, particularly in languages and diplomacy. She had a gift for understanding people, probably because of her empathic abilities. She could sense when someone was lying or when they were hurt or when they needed help. That made her good at helping others, at finding solutions, at building bridges. Both governments had established scholarship programs inspired by her story. The Valaxi Collective created funds for displaced children across their worlds. Earth established the Sophie Hayes Memorial Fund, named for Daniel's daughter, to help orphans of all species. Thousands of children benefited from these programs, all because one girl had found a wallet and chosen to return it. Years passed. Kira grew from a frightened child into a confident young woman. She graduated from school with honors. She went to university, studying interspecies relations and diplomacy. She wanted to help others the way she had been helped. She wanted to build more bridges between species. She wanted to make sure no child, human or Valaxi or any other species, had to live on the streets like she had. When she was 23, Kira was appointed to the United Species Council as a junior ambassador. She was the youngest person ever to hold the position. Daniel was there at her swearing-in ceremony, tears streaming down his face. Ambassador Talia was there too, representing the Valaxi Collective. They had both been mentors to her over the years. In her office, in the drawer of her desk, Kira kept a worn leather wallet. It was empty now. No credit chips, no data chips, no photos. Daniel had given it to her as a gift when she graduated from university. A reminder, he had said, of where you came from and how far you have come. A reminder that small choices can have big consequences. A reminder that doing the right thing, even when it is hard, is always worth it. Sometimes when the work was difficult and the problem seemed too big to solve, Kira would take out the wallet and hold it. She could still feel the faint echoes of the emotions it had once carried. Daniel's worry, his sadness, but now there were new emotions layered on top. Pride, love, hope. The wallet had once represented a crisis, a turning point, a choice. Now it represented everything that had come after, everything she had become. One day, Kira was asked to speak at the Space Academy to a room full of young cadets from dozens of species. They wanted to hear her story, the legend of the girl who had found a wallet and united 2 worlds. She agreed, but she was nervous. What if her story disappointed them? What if they expected something more dramatic, more heroic? She stood at the podium and looked out at all those young faces. Human Valaxian species from across the galaxy, all of them looking to her for inspiration, for guidance. She took a deep breath and began. I want to tell you about the hardest choice I ever made, she said. I was 12 years old. I was homeless, hungry, and alone. And I found something valuable, something that could have changed my life. I had every reason to keep it, every reason to profit from it. But I did not. I chose to do the right thing instead. Not because I was brave, not because I was special, but because I knew deep down that living with myself after making the wrong choice would be harder than living with the hunger and the cold. She pulled the wallet from her pocket and held it up. This wallet represents a choice we all face every day. The choice between what is easy and what is right, between what benefits us and what benefits others, between selfishness and integrity. I chose integrity, and that choice did not just change my life. It changed the lives of millions. It helped end a conflict. It helped build a peace. It helped create a future where different species can work together. But here is the important part, Kira continued. I did not know any of that would happen when I made the choice. I did not know